Also, working with really professional musicians who are really experienced is such a treat. Like, the music makes itself. Like, if they know what they're doing and I know what I'm doing and we both know that about each other, the music just bangs out. No issues at all. If they're an amateur, if there's a difference in our experience level in our respective lanes, the harder the work is.
I could relate to that, because it's also people that are inexperienced don't really know what they want.
Yeah.
And so it's just like this...
because you have to coach and do your job at the same time.
And there's no flow.
It's dividing yourself.
That sort of brings up a question. Like, as an artist, when I was starting out trying to find a genre, I would go in with a song I had written, and I didn't have a genre in mind. I had a feeling in mind. How do you guys approach that when an artist comes to you like that? They don't really have a sound in mind.
Actually, I love that. That to me is much easier than when they have something really fleshed out. Like, it's one thing for them to be like, all right, I want to sound like Medusa, I want it to be like this, where a Tiesto vibe or something like that, and you can just execute it. But it doesn't fulfill me as much as something where you're like, hey, I really want to experiment with this feeling. And then it gives me this so much more depth with trying to come up with either, we could still go in EDM direction and that Medusa or whatever vibe, but we're coming up with something in this moment of like, oh, I like that exact thing that you're doing right now, rather than trying to imitate.
Oh, yeah.
And
more creative freedom in that moment. Like, there are no rules. For some, that's great. You know, others it might not be, but hell yeah.
Are you a vocalist, but you also played instruments?
Yes, man. Mainly percussion. Piano is also a percussion instrument.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say probably my most impressive is the piano right now.
Oh, fair.
It's the one I love the most. But
because it translates right into the DAW.
Yeah, also, yeah, MIDI, you know.
I agree with you. It's far easier when it's just like an idea of what they'd like for the track to sound, and not so much like a fully fleshed out, like, you know, oh, I did this rough demo, or I have like, I mean, it definitely helps with a few reference tracks, but like you said, when we're able to have that creative freedom and almost approach it like side by side with that artist to help bring their idea to life, as you were saying, you feel a lot more fulfilled. Like, I personally feel a lot more fulfilled doing it.
Well, something I do, I call them a networking session, and I was going to say this earlier before I fell into a coffin fit, I think. But when I reach out to a new artist, or they reach out to me, they want studio time, yada yada. First, I suggest come hang out with me for an hour in the studio, so that we can understand each other. And usually, that whole process is me just asking about them and their life and their family and their influences. It's only like 20% of the conversation is actually about music, and then from there, I'm able to extrapolate a whole lot more when it comes to Chase's question. If I haven't had that hour or two long conversation and really vibed out with them and really understand who they are, where they've been, where they are, where they want to go, that gives me all the tools I need to be creative in the right way for them. So I would say that's a hugely important part of my process, is having that networking session first. Even if they want to jump right into music.
Yeah. Right. Even if they show up and they're like, I'm ready, buddy. Like, let's go. Like,
yeah, but then they're like, hold on, let's talk.
Yeah.
You know, if I have trauma. Right. You bring it out. Turn to the art. You know?
And actually, this is a pretty big thing that I wanted to go into. So we really talked about the beauty of music, the language of it and everything else. But what were some of the biggest struggles that really you three have faced in making music a livelihood, in a form for you to like pay your bills, in a form for you to like just start to like get out of your head of thinking like, okay, I can actually make money off of my musical abilities, off of my talents, and grow them?
I grew up feeling intense shame that I was an artist. Like, it had been instilled in me growing up, like, get a real job, study math, science, and
we're all told that.
Yeah, I do enjoy those things, but there was no passion when I was studying those things, for me, it really took me like a big life-changing event to really be like, I have to do this. I need to accept this, or I'm never going to be happy.
It had too.
Oh, okay. But there's ultimately a financial question, though.
Right. Well, I think that's what pretty much pushed you over the edge, but in a good way. Like it pushed you into a place of being like, I'm going to learn while I fall.
Yeah. I had something really bad happen to me, and I am so thankful for it because it was the catalyst to me finally accepting I'm an artist. This is what I need to do to be happy, to be me.
Yeah. That's the most beautiful thing to me, is when you can turn tragedy into triumph. And when your passions really cultivate that way, it becomes something so much more powerful than just a hobby or just like this is how I make money or whatever else. It starts to really embody you, and you evolve into a whole nother level. So that's awesome that you got that with music.
So, your question on how to make it pay bills. Well, it's a few things. A deep sense of purpose that I've always felt. I've always felt I have this talent, and I can't just use it for myself.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like my greatest ability is to pull the music out of other people. So this deep sense of purpose, in that, like, I am here for you people to bring this music out of you. That's the foundation. And another one was I situated my life such that I had no other option. I put all of my eggs in one basket, which was I'm forming a studio business with my partners, finding the right partners, building this business up, because there is no other way.
Because how can you walk if you never learn first to be unbalanced? So many people seek balance and don't understand that being unbalanced is how you reach the next level.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really good. We should just clap.
Oh.
Yeah, that's good. I love it.
That's not, I didn't just make that up. That's from Robert Kiyosaki.
No, we made that up. We know we're Dad Poor Dad, and that's a good one. Mentality is everything.
So there actually was never. It's sometimes I feel like, okay, I'm confident, I really know what I'm doing, but I tried not to have just such a blind confidence. Like I think that being insecure is actually one of the most helpful tools for you to figure out what's the next step. And when I'm in that insecure mindset, I actually feel like my business is thriving more.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's when I'm like, it's when I'm like
uncomfortable.
Yeah, very uncomfortable, and I do not know where my next check is going to come from. I don't know where are my clients coming from. What are people liking from me? Where is this? Because remember, at least what I was doing that got my business kind of off the ground. I mean, it did get off the ground. Was posting in these niche groups, and just every other day I'd make something different. And I'm like, well, was it this post that actually got people interested, or was it this one? Which one did it? Like, and I'll do different genres and different types of posts, or I'll say something different in the header. Like, what's activating people to actually be interested in paying me money for what I'm doing? And so I would just kind of drive myself a little crazy. But what I stuck to is being consistent.
Yes,
Yeah.
tenacity.
Yeah.
That's the thing I was missing in mine as well, Mike.
Yeah, I do feel like
Doing the thing.
Yeah, and like blindly just like, I'm gonna keep going. But it's still like, I don't know what's going on, like, but I gotta just keep figuring it out.
There's definitely a healthy level of what a classically negative emotion and you can use them to push you forward instead of allowing them to hold you back.
And there's a tool.
And the fears that drive people to be poor are the opposite. They're inverted, and those inverted fears are what drive people to be successful. Because there's people who are afraid of, oh, like, what if I don't make it, or what if I can't afford my bills, and that's why I have to stick to what's safe and what I know. And there's other people who look at that and say, what if I never find out who I'm supposed to be? What if I never find out what I'm actually supposed to become? And that fear is what keeps them away from settling for mediocrity or settling for anything less than chasing their dreams.
I like to think there are only two fundamental forces in this universe: love and fear. I put them on this spectrum. And any decision or anything anyone does, you can kind of place on this one-dimensional thing where that's coming from. A lot of people do things out of pure love or pure fear, and the end product might be the same. But those are the two forces to consider.
And that's so funny that you bring that up. We were talking about concept albums earlier. One of my favorites is called Love and Fear by Marina and the Diamonds. And she made a whole double album, actually, a love side and a fear side based on that concept.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I should really like that question. I really appreciate you saying that. Trying to think, so because 7 years in the business, you're just starting out. Like, how did you know what type of clients you wanted to have on?
So here's what it was. I was always a musician. At this point, I'd played many instruments. I was a singer-songwriter. I'd taken AP Music Theory in high school and I'd made a few compositions. I understood music pretty well at that point in terms of the organic side of music, and not the digital side of music. I knew musicianship and that sort of stuff. And then at the same time, one of my best friends who I love to hang out with, classically trained cellist his whole life, he also came from the same musical place. And he was always a poet and a rapper in his own right as well, always writing incredible things. And we would just hang out all the time at his parents' house, and then we got this computer, we got this thing called Ableton on it. We started dicking around on it, hanging out every day, doing the thing, learning, competing with each other in a healthy way, one-upping each other in a healthy way. And after about a year or so, we realized, like, we want to do this all the time. How do we do that?
Yeah.
Very so.
Plus, the answer was, be a commercial recording studio, because then at any given time, even if we're not working on our music, we're working on music nonetheless. Someone else's or ours, doesn't matter. How do we make music the main thing all the time? So that was the answer we gave ourselves. We realized we're getting pretty damn good at this. Like, we're becoming good producers and engineers right now. How do we leverage this? And then we developed a vision and a business model, and then stuck with it. And then every year the studio grew.
So you were like, I'm just gonna drop $100,000 on all this music equipment.
We didn't even have, we never had like an infusion of great startup capital. And that's the thing. It was a very slow grind for the Fuse.
Yeah.
We were just really good at what we did with baseline shitty.
Yeah.
And which is something, when I teach my classes, which is usually a one-on-one in-person master bass, tailored to the student. They know what they need.